What happened to Savannah Guthrie's mom? Well, we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on this episode of Charlie Crimebuster. It is what some people are calling, they're calling it the fastest minutes in podcasting.
The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of the individuals participating and do not represent those of city, county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, nor sponsors and platforms of this presentation. The Charlie Crimebuster name and all forms and abbreviations are property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. All individuals described or mentioned in the presentation should be considered innocent unless or until found guilty in a court of law. This presentation contains adult subject matter. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Well, hello and welcome to another Charlie Crimebuster episode. Today we're going to get right into the abduction of Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy. We're going to be talking about what we know now that maybe we did not know before, and we're going to get you up to date on the national case that has caught the attention of the nation. But first, let me just take a moment and welcome you to the program. Thank you for joining us on the Charlie Crime Train ride today. If you're a seasoned listener or if you're a first-time listener, we always encourage you to reach out with a shout-out. Reach me, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Don't forget, check out our sponsor, peacemakernetwork.com. And if you have just joined us, please take a moment, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. That way, every time we drop an episode, it will go right to you.
The following podcast is brought to you by peacemakernetwork.com. peacemakernetwork.com. Audio is provided by pixabay.com. That's pixabay.com.
Well, today, my friend, we have an opportunity to be a part of history. We have an opportunity to join the multiple sleuths out there, crime sleuths out there, and trying to find out what happened to Nancy Guthrie. We're going to talk about that on today's program. We actually have, I got to tell you, we got a real whodunit. It is an important episode. And it is such an important episode, not because of who Savannah Guthrie is. It is an important one because Nancy, Savannah's mom, is missing. Savannah is not the victim as far as the person that was taken. She's a victim because it's her mom, certainly. But the real issue is what happened to Nancy. And how can we as a crime family be a part of helping to solve this case? And by the way, as we start, since this is an ongoing case and we are recording this in real time, I need to let you know authorities are urging anyone with information about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance or her whereabouts to please call the County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900, 520-351-4900, or 88-CRIME, or 520-882-7463. You can also submit tips with the P3 Tips app or at 88crime.org, 88crime.org. All these calls and all these tips, reported, are to remain anonymous. And my friend, just as we covered the Doomsday Mother, as far as her missing children's case, we were following that in real time. Well, right now, we're following in real time this episode of the missing case of Nancy Guthrie. Now, it's been an actual week now on the recording of this episode that Nancy has been missing. And because of this horrible event, Savannah Guthrie, the famous Today Show anchor, has also been absent from the morning show. By the way, she was also scheduled to cover the NBC Olympics during this time. But of course, her focus right now is trying to make sure that they can get her mom home safe. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Sure, Nancy is getting all of this national attention because of who her daughter is. And there are others that are missing who do not get this attention. And you are absolutely correct there. In fact, my friend, did you know that there are 600,000 people reported missing each year? 600,000 people reported missing each year. Now, this is according to the Missing and Unidentified Person System. The vast majority of these are actually found. and they return home within a few days. But tens of thousands of cases remain active at any given time. But the real question is, here in Nancy's case, the real question we should ask is how many of those missing people are actually abducted? Lots of runaways, lots of teens run away, but how many are actually abducted, as the evidence in this case is pointing to? Well, according to the stats, 0.1% are abducted by a stranger. Most of the missing are, as I said a moment ago, teen runaways. This means, my friend, that 99% of missing persons are not abducted. That should cause attention to this case in and of itself. Now, what is even more rare is the fact that Nancy is actually in her 80s. Abduction of older people are even rare. In fact, Nancy just turned 84 years of age before she was taken, a few days before she was taken. So it's not just the fact that Savannah Guthrie's mom, that Nancy is Savannah Guthrie's mom, that gets our attention. It's also the unique age of the victim in this case. Now, there's something else that's rare about this case, and that is the fact that there is a ransom demand. Now, in crime shows you watch, you may think that you get ransoms just all the time because that's what we see on TV. Somebody is missing. Well, let's look for the ransom. Let's set up the recorders. Let's get ready for the ransom. Let's find the money, blah, 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 blah. But it is strange to actually have a ransom, even in the abduction of children. Even in the abduction of children by strangers, only about 4 to 5% actually demand a ransom. So there are plenty of reasons why this case is getting attention. But I gotta say, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room. No doubt, because Nancy's daughter is Savannah, she is getting more attention than perhaps somebody else's mom would probably get in a case like this. And we need to just face this as a basic tragic truth. There are others who are not as fortunate to get this kind of attention. Because don't forget, attention in many ways can help solve these crimes. And here we are at Charlie Crimebuster. And you that are listening to this podcast in real time, we are becoming a part of getting the word out there. So someone somewhere who sees something or hears something may help save Nancy's life. Again, if you have information, contact the Sheriff Department at 520-351-4900. That's 520-351-4900. Now, you that follow us, you already know how important on Charlie Crimebuster a timeline is. And we've shared with you why that timeline is so important in solving crimes like this. So in a moment, we're going to share with you the timeline in this case. But now let's just take a moment. Let's take a deep breath and let's share with you a quick look at our weekly Crazy Crook story. And then we're going to return to sharing information about this nationwide search for the real crooks, not the crazy crooks, but the real crooks that took Nancy Guthrie. But now, let's take a quick moment and a breath and share with you Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. Our Crazy Crook this week is not a Florida man, but a New Jersey man. A New Jersey man who's facing multiple criminal charges after authorities say, hang on to your hat, he called 911 to brag about evading the police. Yep, can't make it up. And that happening about a dangerous car chase. According to News 12, Vishal Bhatt, 38 years of age, initially contacted the police department on January the 28th to complain about a traffic ticket that he had received earlier that day. Now, based on statements that Blatt made during the phone call, allegedly, officers decided to conduct what is called a wellness check at his residence. When they arrived, Blatt was reportedly sitting inside a white Kia Rio. Authorities say he fled the scene after noticing the officers approaching. Now then they began to try to stop him, do a traffic stop, but he accelerated at a high rate of speed, improperly passed another vehicle, and nearly collided with oncoming traffic. The officers attempted to initiate what is a motor vehicle stop, but since he accelerated at such a high speed and he was illegally passing several vehicles, that put the motorist public at risk. And the captain there called off the pursuit. They terminated their pursuit. But this crazy crook, instead of laying low, police say that he called the department multiple times in the hours following the chase, allegedly, listen to this, bragging about his ability to flee from officers. And of course, these calls ultimately helped investigators track his movements. And on January the 30th, they located him in Clinton. There he was taken into custody without further incident. Now, our crazy crook has been charged with eluding police, along with additional motor vehicle offenses related to reckless driving, unsafe operation of a vehicle. Now, they have not disclosed whether he did sustain injuries or if alcohol and drugs was involved. So this crazy crook, who tried to evade police and elude police by going on a high-speed chase, only to turn around and then call the police department several times to brag about somehow evading the police, well, he is indeed Charlie Crimebuster's crazy crook of the week. Well, now let's get back to our case. Nancy Guthrie is missing. On January the 31st, a neighbor did see Nancy Guthrie. That was back last week around Saturday. They did see her outside of her home. After the news of her disappearance, one of her neighbors told one of the magazines, quote, "Nancy is a longtime neighbor and dear friend, and we're all worried about her. We live on the same street. We're in complete shock, very concerned." They added, "I saw her just 2 days ago on Saturday, January the 31st. That's according to the article, and when she was speaking to the people there. We do know that on January the 31st, around 5:30 in the evening there at that particular place, Nancy Guthrie visited family members nearby for a dinner. Most people believe that she went to Annie Guthrie's home, and that was the other daughter that Nancy had. And on January the 31st, she was last seen by her daughter, Annie Guthrie, around 9:48 p.m. They dropped her off at her house after they had family dinner together. And they waited, according to the reports, to make sure that she was safely inside the house before leaving. And on January the 31st, 9:50 p.m., well, that's when the garage door closed. Now, they confirmed that by 9:50, Nancy was home with that garage door closed. But then, at 1:47 a.m. in the morning, Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera disconnected. Now, according to some experts, they think that maybe disconnecting this doorbell camera may have been a test for Nancy's abductors to see maybe if there was immediate response from law enforcement. Because even though the camera was ripped off the doorbell, motion is seen on the camera 20 minutes later outside. Can't make out what that motion is, but it was seen there. So experts are saying, as I said, that he could have taken that and then waited to see if police arrived. Would that alert anything? Would that do anything? And then maybe thinking the coast is clear, the bad guy or bad guys, we don't know, maybe they went back in and then decided to do it. But we do know this, that on February the 1st, now at 2:28 a.m., remember the camera was disconnected at 1:47, but at 2:28 a.m., that's when Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker disconnects from her Apple Watch. They became disconnected, and that, my friend, is a key point in this timeline. It is a critical moment. We know that at 2:28, that's when the pacemaker, is disconnected from the watch or the phone or whichever that's there. We do know that that's when that more than likely she was taken. Now, this does not mean that the pacemaker stopped working. It simply means that she was removed from the close presence of that watch that would pick up the signal on her pacemaker. So that is more than likely the time that she was taken from the home. 2:28 a.m. on Sunday morning, about a week ago from this recording, she was taken. Now, later that morning, around 11:56 a.m., people are recognizing that she is missing from church. Then they contact her family. The family then goes to Nancy's home. They look for her, they search for her, but they did not find her. But here is a clue. All of her personal belongings, including her wallet, cell phone, car, is still at the home. So they did what any family would do in those situations. They immediately called 911. They call and they tell the police that she's missing. And so at 6:46 p.m., the local sheriff's department then declare on Sunday afternoon that Nancy Guthrie is missing. They released a missing person poster that showed her face and noted that she was last seen near her home on January the 31st, that's Saturday, a week ago, and then they began to search. They used drones, they used an airplane, they used a helicopter, they had search and rescue dogs, and they were all looking to try to find Nancy. But then on February the 2nd, that's when the county sheriff's department declares that Nancy's home is a crime scene. So now it's not just a missing person, but it's a person who is missing as a result of a crime. That was reported on Monday, February the 2nd. They did not give a lot of specific details about what they saw in that house that made them suspect foul play. They did not give a lot of details on that Monday a week ago. They did not give a lot of details out about it. But they did declare it a crime scene. And they did take this from a simple missing persons case into a criminal case. And unfortunately, we now know that it could be, possibly, a homicide case. Now, during that same morning, Savannah, her daughter, who was well known, she sent an Instagram message, asked followers for prayers, begged the world to bring her mom home, noting that her mother was a woman of deep conviction, a good, faithful servant. Then later the sheriff then says, Nancy's been taken from her home against her will, likely in the middle of the night, possibly from her bed. And he goes on to say she's very limited in her mobility. We know she didn't just walk out of there. And other things at the scene indicate she did not leave on her own. Now, we know what the sheriff was talking about then was her cell phone, her Apple Watch, her wallet, and her car. So now we know we have a missing person. That very evening, the sheriff's office sets up an online tip line, offering a $2,500 reward for any images, video, or information leading to arrest. Now, let me pause right a moment and say, you probably thought what I thought when I heard about this $2,500 reward. That's not very much. No, not very much at all. But this was from an organization that does this sort of thing, and they have limited funds, and so they have to limit the amount that they can put out at any time. It's usually for situations when sometimes a person is just missing and they need some more information, and they put it out there. Now we know that reward has been certainly has been increased by the presence of the FBI. So the FBI comes into the scene. Now, keep in mind, when the FBI comes on the scene, doesn't mean that they take over. This is still a local investigation. However, the FBI has a lot more support that this sheriff's department needs. They even have a rescue team that can go out, a SWAT team that can go out. They have people who can actually talk about trying to talk somebody down and trying to get information. They have all kinds of resources there. A hostage negotiator is there to help them in these situations. Now, there are some people that say that the pacemaker stopped when syncing up with her Apple Watch, but that's not true. We just know that it went away. I do want to mention that again because some people think that all of a sudden. Now, on February the 2nd, something else that happens. There is a local station, KOLD 13. They receive a ransom note about Nancy Guthrie by way of email. And so they did report that, and they passed it on to the sheriff's department. They went on to say in this ransom note, a lot of it is information that only someone who is holding her for ransom would know. That's what Mary Coleman of KOLD 13 news anchor told CNN. She went on to say the note contains some very sensitive information and things that people who worked there when she was taken captive would not know. It also indicated, according to her, a dollar amount, a deadline. And again, only specifics that only Guthrie's abductor might know. That definitely raised some red flags. And according to the station there, they immediately sent that information over to the sheriff's department, and they are looking into the legitimacy of that note. Now, on February the 3rd, at 11:12 a.m., now TMZ, the station TMZ, obtains a ransom note about Nancy Guthrie. They reported on Tuesday, February the 3rd, this past week, 11:12 a.m., that they received a ransom note about Nancy. This note demanded a Bitcoin payment in the millions, with a deadline, and again, it mentions specific details about Nancy's apparel and the condition of her home. They too forwarded the ransom note and all the details to authorities who said they were aware of and are investigating all ransom notes circulating online. Now, it's a little unclear. We don't know whether that was the exact same note that the station KOLD found or not. So TMZ, the station KOLD, received ransom notes. We do not know if they are the same. We do know that one of the ransom notes has two deadlines. Not one deadline, but two. One deadline of Thursday, February the 5th at 5 p.m. The second deadline was for Monday, February the 9th, which is tomorrow or the time that this episode is being released, with a much more quote unquote, and this is ominous as you think about it, but with a quote, more serious consequence. That's according to TMZ. Now, authorities so far have said they were not aware of any specific threats to Nancy, and they cannot say whether this abduction was targeted or that there was some sort of specific motive involved in it. Now, another disturbing and ominous part of this thing is that on February the 3rd, at 11:35 a.m., there was another report comes that investigators found blood at Nancy Guthrie's home. The Los Angeles Times, they were saying that investigators found blood at the home and that there were signs of forced entry. Of course, they cited law enforcement sources speaking anonymously. Now, it is not currently known at this point that they released this, whose blood was found on the scene. But there is a published footage that you can see outside of Nancy's house showing what appeared to be a trail of blood. And you can see that. I've looked at it. It does look like blood, but, at this point, we only have photos, so we can't really say what. Now, at February the 3rd also, the sheriff did say there's likely no public threat connected to this disappearance. Well, the reason you can say that is that it's obvious here that this person or persons have taken Nancy, and they're trying to get a ransom as a result of it. And again, I told you this is really rare, And that's why we have such attention going on now about this. Now, we do know that there is now an FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge, John Edwards, who is a part of all this, and he is found during one of the press conferences in the case. Now, they did say to reporters that he did not think whoever might have abducted Nancy would be a threat to the public. And then he went on to say, well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like in any city. And so there, when you say a threat to the public, is there somebody out there who's kidnapping elderly people in the middle of the night, every night? No, we've not heard that. Now, keeping with our timeline, on February the 4th, we do know that the family came together and they really posted a tearful video begging for proof of life for Nancy and to bring her home. They went on to say, one of the quotes, "We too have heard reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we're doing everything we can. We are ready to talk." That's what Savannah said. "However, we do live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know without a doubt that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you and we're ready to listen. Please reach out to us." She added that Annie and Charles, their mother, is of her heart and her home. She's 84 years of age. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She's without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. Then she went on to say, on behalf of the family, she wanted to thank all of the prayers for her beloved mom. So here is a really, really sad situation. A family that's begging for proof of life. A family that's willing to do what they can to try to reach these kidnappers, person or persons, unknown, and they want to hear about their mom. So I guess the question we would ask, is there a suspect? That's a very good question. The most recent confirmed information, though, about the suspect says there is no suspect. Law enforcement agencies, including the county sheriff and the FBI, they know that there is an abduction, but they have not named any suspect or person of interest in the case. They've also stated, though, on the other hand, that nobody is ruled out or ruled in. They are canvassing leads, they're examining messages, and they're following up on evidence, but there is no official suspect announced. There are rumors and there's speculation, but you know, we on Charlie Crimebuster, we do not take rumors and speculation and make that as something that is real. We try to always follow the evidence. There have been some public social media speculation about whether someone close to the family, a relative, might be involved. But law enforcement has explicitly, they have denied naming anyone as a suspect. And we do know now that this is an ongoing investigation. So here we have it, my friend. A deadline coming up tomorrow. And according to what the reports we have, there's going to be serious consequences. And we do not know now whether any ransom has been, they've gotten together this ransom that they're asking for. We don't know if there's any situation where they're going to meet somebody somewhere like you see on TV, because I'm sure that authorities are keeping all of that very, very, very close. And they're making sure that they keep information that they need for the integrity of the investigation and, more importantly, in the pursuit of finding Nancy's life. So I guess the question we're all thinking, is she still alive? We don't really know. We sure hope so. We sure pray so. And let me say again, if you do have information at all about this case, please call the County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900, 520-351-4900, or you can also submit tips to the P3 Tips app, or at 88crime.org, 88crime.org. Again, we are told that all these calls and tips will remain anonymous. Let me encourage you, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. let the authorities know about it. If you can't remember all those numbers, call your local sheriff's department, your local police department. They will help you get in touch with the right people so that you can report on this scene. Please, folks, if you know anything, please get the word out, because I do believe the clock is ticking. Is she alive? We don't know. Is she unharmed? We don't know. These are things that we are going to find out in the coming days ahead. This is Charlie Crimebuster. We're on the case now with missing Nancy Guthrie. And we encourage you to join us, join the nation, as we look for this dear, precious lady who was abducted in the middle of the morning by unknown captors. Till this time, next time, this is Charlie Crimebuster reminding you, be safe, be alert. For the life you save, it may be your very own.
You have been listening to Charlie Crimebuster. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Peacemaker Network, and also encourage you to support the first responders, military, and law enforcement personnel by contributing to the Peacemaker Network. That's peacemakernetwork.com. All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com. That's Pixabay.com. You can also support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, tag @CharlieCrimebuster, and then click the subscribe button. By doing so, you'll be notified each time we drop one of our shows. Another more convenient way for you to listen to our podcasts, or for you to say to your smart speaker, play Charlie Crimebuster. If you have comments or suggestions, we would love to hear from you, so please send them to charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. That's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com, or you can call or text us at 407-917-2211. That's 407-917-2211. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you will join us again for another exciting crime episode with Charlie Crimebuster.